Hello again. I will freely admit to being proudly and unashamedly Eurocentric in my outlook, valuing the science, art, and cultural traditions of Europe far more than those of pre-literate Kalahari Bushmen or the savages of the South Seas. Whenever I am urged to be more broad-minded and to consider the achievements of other civilizations, and the architecture, science, and art which they produced at the same time as, say, Renaissance Italy, I'm always prepared to listen and examine the evidence, such as it is. Invariably, it serves only to reinforce my pride in the achievements of the white European race. The thumbnail to this video, for example, shows Michelangelo's Pieta, which may be found in St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican City. It has been carved from hard marble with a hammer and chisel. Just look at it for a moment and marvel at it. What do we find if we look at Africa or the Americas at the time that the Pieta was being fashioned? Well, there are, of course, things such as the Benin bronzes from West Africa. These look like something which a 16-year-old school pupil in modern Britain might turn out as a project for his GCSEs. They are crude and primitive in the extreme compared to Michelangelo's work. In North and South America, there are some woven cloths and stone carvings, all of them very poor work compared with what was being undertaken in Europe at the time. Go back a few hundred years from the Renaissance in Italy and look around Europe's architecture at that time. Consider, say, Salisbury Cathedral, which was built in England almost 1,000 years ago. What was being produced in the rest of the world in this way of that time of architecture, say? In the Americas, nothing. Australia, also nothing. Sub-Saharan Africa, there are some dry stone walls which make up Great Zimbabwe. In Asia, of course, some fine work was going on in this field, but most of these societies and cultures had already begun to stagnate, and a few centuries later this process was even more noticeable. At the same time, Europe forged ahead, became ever more vigorous, and created ever more wonders. By the 19th century, the difference between European civilization and culture, including that of North America, was simply staggering. Look at the buildings and art of Britain at that time, and compare them with what was going on in Asia by then. And so it continued right up to the present day, with European science and art head and shoulders above that found anywhere else. Of course, if we're not careful, that will change, and it's possible that our civilization will begin to fail and decline, which might well be the consequence if we allow too many people belonging to other ethnic groups to enter Europe and North America. This will probably result in one of two possibilities. It may be that the injection of fresh new blood into the European race will have the effect of adding something, perhaps some new strength and vitality, improving the racial stock of the continent. On the other hand, it might have the opposite effect. It might be like adding inferior breeds to a pedigree stock, which would have the effect of weakening the line and making the products in the long term inferior to the purer breed. What is certain is that never in the history of the world has there been a race which has achieved more in every conceivable field than that of the white Europeans, and that the current situation might lead to the decline and fall of that race, which would, as far as I'm concerned, be a tragedy.